Hello, and welcome to the Cleveland International Film Festival's post-film conversation for the comedic short film, Good Mourning. This conversation is part of the Halfway to CIFF45 celebration, powered by PNC, and features 3 programs of some of the best short films from CIFF44. Hi, I'm Paul Sloop, the short films programming manager for the Cleveland International Film Festival, and the moderator of this conversation. I'm delighted to welcome our guests from the film Good Mourning. First, the producer and director, Daniel Rashid.
Hello.
Actor, co-writer, and producer, Geoffrey James. And actor, co-writer, and producer, Reilly Anspaugh. Welcome to you all, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us,
Paul.
Thanks for having us, Paul.
It's great to see you all. A couple of you, Daniel, Geoffrey, this is not even your first rodeo with CIFF. You're both alums from previous films before this. But let's talk about Good Mourning. First of all, the 3 of you obviously came together. Tell us a little bit about what led to all of you coming together to make this particular film.
Well, Reilly and Jeff have been doing comedy for a few years now, right?
Together. So Jeff and I work at a comedy podcast network called HeadGum. And we do a lot of, we have our own podcast there, but we do a lot of sketch videos online for HeadGum. And one day we were just truly sitting down, like thinking of an idea for a sketch and just kind of riffing on different things. And I forget if the idea came first or that photo of the mascot came first, Jeff?
I think the photo of Slider, the Indians mascot, came first. Yeah. It's this photo of him just going like, and so we were like, mascot. What an entrance.
And so we started riffing on like what would be the most awful, inappropriate, inopportune times for a mascot to burst into a room. And Daniel's such a wonderful filmmaker in all forms, but we're like, Daniel needs to be the one to help us do it, obviously. So that's kind of the origin story is truly Jeff and I sitting on a couch being like, what would be funny with a mascot costume?
I wish it was more involved.
I know.
So are you all film students?
I was a theater major and a film minor at USC, and I make a living as an actor, and I also direct and produce and write and stuff. And so I have a little bit of background in school as film, but most of my schooling has just been making stuff after I graduated. Started with sketch comedy and have now moved into longer, stupid films.
I went to, sorry.
No, go.
Yeah, I went to USC as well, but I was the year, as soon as Daniel graduated, I started. So we missed each other, but of course serendipity had it that we'd work together eventually. But same deal, like I went to USC for film production, but I've learned a lot more doing stuff like this after the fact. But shout out USC, great education.
I went to theater school with no real intention of getting into film, really. And so I went to school just for acting for theater, but have always, and then just through that started writing and then fell into sketch and then doing really just like learning a lot on different shoots just from watching and from experience. And I definitely once I even started doing sketch and even once I started venturing into shorts and stuff, had a lot of imposter syndrome of like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but sometimes no one knows what they're talking about. And that's how we all learn, is truly just by doing it. Just getting better and learning each time, being like, cool, like that's what I got from this. And now I'll learn that and take into this next thing. And, and then the cycle just will repeat itself.
I couldn't agree more with the imposter syndrome thing too, because like you and I wrote this, we're working with Daniel, but then on the day I'm like, am I saying this line right? Because it's all just mush at this point. I'm like, we came up with it, but
if it's bad, we'll change it.
I know exactly how it's supposed to be said, and I still can't do it.
Well, you bring up the film, which is outrageously funny. And so we get the original inspiration, but there's a lot more to the story going on than just the mascot. So is any of the dialogue and such drawn from personal experience? Where did that storyline come from?
I mean, I think like, so Jeff and I, in our writing together, in our comedy, a lot of it, like we truly just see ourselves as little cartoon characters walking through the world. And so a lot of our comedy is very absurd and very screwball and very big. And so with this crazy big event that's happening, we're like, okay, we really need to counteract it with what's the most kind of grounded scenario, like, you know, absurd, but also the most grounded place that this thing can happen. And so, you know, if we're having, you know, not only like, you know, Grandpa Ray being a zombie at the end and like a mascot, like all these different things, like all these surreal, like the crowd is chanting, you know, all these crazy things that needs to be anchored down by a real relationship and by real, grief and real tragedy that everyone's experiencing.
That was kind of the biggest thing for me when they brought the script to me. I really wanted to hone in on what is the story. Yes, it's going to be hilarious to have a mascot costume in a church. That's going to be funny. But what's the heart of it? What's the reality? What is the film actually about? And it's in the title, Good Mourning. I mean, we all grieve in different ways, and it's really just about how difficult it is to mourn the passing of a loved one. And without that heart, it's just kind of then it's just jokes. But with the heart, it makes it, in my opinion, my favorite kind of things that I watch are things that have a heart and are funny because they're grounded in reality. So I hope it's, you know, it's absurd, it's ridiculous, but I hope it's relatable on some level in kind of how grounded we've made the reality.
And going off that, I think it's like you write it and then you kind of have to start a new job. And Daniel did a great job of expressing that to us of like, look, on the day, you're not writers, you're not producers, don't think about anything else. You're Gavin and you're Piper. And for me, I was like, okay, yeah, like you said, you write it, it's funny, there's jokes on the page, but then it's like, who actually is Gavin and why does he think this is okay? And so from that, I think I pulled from my personal experience of just being a blind optimist sometimes, like trying to help as much as possible, but sometimes making things worse and not seeing it until somebody kind of grabs you and they're like, stop. And I'm like, oh, I was just trying to help. So I guess to a much higher and absurd extent, I was like, oh, like, let me try and Gavin just wants to help. He just doesn't know how, and he does it wrong every time.
Right.
So from years of doing this, I can concur with what you're saying too, because my favorite films, and I love all kinds of films, but my personal favorites are what I always call the heart films. And there's nothing better than a comedic journey that lands in the heart. So well done. So we see the finished product, it looks great and everything, but almost always in the making of a film, there's things that happen and backstories that are as good and sometimes even better than the film. So please, what stories can you share about the making of the film?
Oh man. Well, okay, I guess I'll start. I mean, we only had the budget to book the church for one day. And so we shot this all in a single day. And if I were to go back and do it again, I would have found more money to do it because it was a lot to fit in. When you factor in like all the extras that we had, there was just so many moving parts, so many different characters. So the coverage, just from a camera point of view, it becomes just a lot of different shots you need to get. And we hit lunch, and we were so behind. And I was looking at a shot list that I had, and I was like, "There's no way." There was one point. I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but there was one point in the day we were so far behind and I was so overwhelmed that I literally thought, I think I'm done. I felt like
not worth it.
I felt like Forrest Gump in where he's like, I think I'll go home now, and he just turns around and
which
just
is so
goes
funny
home.
because at the end of the day, like we all got drinks after, and I was commending Daniel. I'm like, Daniel, you know what? Like you were so calm, you were so grounded the whole day. Like I'm so grateful that you were like so with it, and you were just like, oh, I wanted to leave.
No, but it wasn't fun. It was just overwhelming, and so the solution that we had was we were able to combine a lot of shots. We had a dolly shot that basically I was like, okay, we could pick off a bunch of different coverage from this one position and just kind of used the dolly to get different camera placements. And then we, cut a few shots. But then at the end, we had to get all the reaction shots from the crowd, and they sat there all day. And it was just so hot. This place didn't have AC. We had these giant fans that were blowing, and we had to turn off. The extras were incredible. But then we got into the editing room, and you're a very if you have an eagle eye and you're looking for it.
Keep in mind, all the extras dressed in black to the nines.
It's a funeral.
Dresses.
Like,
and they totally took it seriously.
And they were incredible. But like we had maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes where at the end of the day where I was getting all the shots of the extras, just getting reaction shots.
They were amazing.
And to me, that they make the film, because if you don't have that as like the grounding the film, they're what grounds the film. People being like, what is going on? But if you look carefully, in the back row of all the extra shots, there is a guy in a white shirt just kind of sitting there. And he was the guy, he was our craft services guy who showed up. Just
why did you think that was fine? The camera's clearly on
not
the
even
audience.
reacting.
Right. Yeah, and we had so many eyes on the monitor, and nobody noticed it.
No one caught him.
Because we were all so overwhelmed and trying to get all the shots, but nobody noticed him.
The heat definitely made it worse, because like it would be cut, fans like switch them on immediately, and we were all sweating so much. And I was in like this mascot costume that's like billowy, and like you could get a cooling jacket where you like put it in the freezer and then put it on. And I was like, we won't need that. Like, it's not that thick. And it was, and I think that's the worst I've smelled ever after a day of anything.
Yeah, it is. It is the worst he's smelled ever.
Yeah, and I do appreciate it.
Well, look, you're all so young and so talented. One of the things we'd definitely like you to share, what's up next? What are you working on at the moment?
Jeff, I'll leave it to you.
Not a lot, but Reilly and I have a podcast on the HeadGum Network, like she said. It's called Review. It's an improv comedy podcast where we take reviews from Yelp, TripAdvisor, etc., and then do improv based off of it. So we've been working on that since January, and it's picking up a little audience. So if you want more goofs in the same vein, check that out. It's Spotify, Apple, everywhere you can find podcasts.
Yeah, it's very, very funny.
Daniel's been on a couple times, so you can.
Yeah, two-time guest.
They made a mistake of having me on twice. But Reilly and I we're writing. We're all writing. We're working on a web series right now and a feature. So hoping to have that. And a short. That's right. Yeah, getting all of the different lengths. And then there's a festival called the Pittsburgh Shorts Festival, and I have another short film that will be playing there. I don't know if it's not public news yet, so I'm not going to say it out loud. But yeah, that's what's coming up.
And I think what's different about me is that I'm part of a show called Review, and I'm also working with Daniel on a web series and a short. So I think that's kind of what's I'm a little different from what they're doing, and that I am doing all the same things as they are. So.
Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to be with us. We're excited to see what you do next. Hope you'll be back on our screens at the Cleveland International Film Festival. Once again, we want to thank our special guests and you, our audience, for joining us for this special halfway to CIFF45 post-film conversation. For more information about the upcoming 45th Cleveland International Film Festival, please continue to follow CIFF on social media. Don't forget to visit us at clevelandfilm.org. And as always, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Cleveland.